Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 13 of the anime series Shouwa Genroku Rakugo Shinjuu, for all intents and purposes, the season 1 finale. And that was the most sort of overarching thing for this episode. The transition back to the present day as of where we started this series with Yotaro and the fully grown Konatsu and everything like that. The aged Yakumo, finally seeing Kikuhiko taking on that name, sort of still begrudgingly, but you know, he's very much in between a rock and a hard place, where we opened this episode after the loss of Sugaroku and Miyokichi, and taking as his ward young Konatsu, who we see is the sort of adversarial rivalry sort of relationship between them, even to the point where she threatens to kill him, and he's like, "Where'd you learn that?" My mother. All that kind of stuff. Transitioning into the present day again, it was quite a welcome thing for me, because that's what I've been waiting for. I've been enjoying and very highly invested in this story in the past between Sugaroku and Kikuhiko respectively, and I've just been wondering, if it was going to be the entirety of the series before we got back to Yotaro and finding out what his position is, and that's very much where we kind of taper off. It's almost like a cliffhanger to another, impending season, and I like that. I like the idea that there is that promise of exploring more of this particular situation, more of this story, more of what's going on in the lives of these characters, and seeing that, sort of ghostly encounter between, the modern Yakumo, Kikuhiko, and Sugaroku, his spirit, in the aftermath, in the wake of finding out Konatsu is with child, and we don't know who the father is. She doesn't want to even bring it up, and, I thought it was really cool and honorable, surprisingly, that Yotaro would actually say, "Let me be the father." And I mean, he's almost like the most natural choice in the idea of another generation of Sugaroku, carrying on the Rakugo style of Sugaroku, which again was another kind of shock and delight, that he actually goes to, Kikuhiko, the modern Yakumo, and says, "Please, I want to ask you, can I please take on the name Sugaroku and carry on that legacy?" And that's where we leave off. So it's like, whoa, okay, we got, Konatsu with child, you got Yotaro wanting to be the new Sugaroku, and, basically we hear from, the Yakumo himself. He's talking about they want him to be the president of the Rakugo Association and everything. He's like the eldest among them anymore, and it's very much this idea. It's all about legacy. It all comes full circle in this idea of a generational legacy, in that at the start of the series, Yotaro, he came to Yakumo, to Kikuhiko, and said, "I want to learn Rakugo. I want to keep this going. I want to, be sort of the voice of the Rakugo for a whole new generation." And at first he was begrudging, but of course, through the course of this series, we've seen the evolution of that scenario, and even calling back as we go back, and we have this story being related to us by Kikuhiko of his past before he took on the name Yakumo. We saw that bond between he and, who Sugaroku was known as at that time, Shin, Bon and Shin, these two brothers. They were so desperate to learn Rakugo. Of course, it was much more of a, jumping hurdles, and something that Bon himself, Kikuhiko himself, had to warm to, through the course of his life, and a lot of his passion for Rakugo came out of Sugaroku's passion for it, and, the bond between them. And just the whole drama of their story, all of this, this entire series has just been magnificent. I love every minute of it. I have loved every minute of it. Looking into the lives of these characters, of course, I took some minor issue with the way we see Sugaroku and Miyokichi dispatched from the story in the previous episode, falling over, the sort of waterfall or whatever it was. And as I said, it just felt kind of fictional. And somebody pointed out in the comments that, you know, as per what we saw in the first episode, I had fleeting images of this in my mind, and I wasn't sure if I was remembering correctly, but it seemed almost as though, you know, Sugaroku had been bloodied in the street or something, and like Kikuhiko was bent over him and trying to, you know, wake him up or something along those lines. Not exactly sure what that has to do in the grand scheme of things. If this was sort of a romanticized way of Kikuhiko imparting, or the modern Yakumo imparting this to Yotaro and Konatsu respectively, what the fates of Sugaroku and Miyokichi was, if that was their real genuine fate, as someone else pointed out in the comments. It kind of boiled the entirety of the situation between Sugaroku and Miyokichi, their lives, their relationship, into those, you know, last few moments. It was kind of like the pinnacle of what they were together. And there is a sort of poetic beauty to that, as much as it is a tragedy. And, but yeah, by the time we're done with this, we have that promise. Yotaro himself says this was not the entirety of the story. There's still another act to follow, and when that will happen, I don't know. I will be greatly looking forward to it. I enjoyed every minute of the series, as I said, and going out in this such a way with the promise of that generational sort of, you know, recirculation. Konatsu's child, soon to be born, you know, Yotaro himself wanting to take on the name Sugaroku, wanting to be a husband and father to, you know, Konatsu and her child, and all this kind of stuff. Those promises of the future, it's such a warm and welcome feeling to know that this continues in some way, shape, or form. Some way down the line, it will continue. And I'll be there for it. I will love seeing it. I will love seeing the story continue and learn what happens in the lives of Yotaro and Konatsu, respectively, as well as Yakumo, Kikuhiko, as he's already dropping hints, you know, they're sort of waiting around for my death and all this kind of stuff. It's like, well, how long is he going to be for the win, you know? But yeah, this was a great series and a very interesting way to end it, to leave it off with this temporary idea of it ain't over. We still got more to tell. And so stick around and we'll be back, you know? And I loved it. I enjoyed it very much. I enjoyed the series as a whole. Love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of the series as a whole. Shouwa Genroku Rakugo Shinjuu. If you enjoyed it, if you are as excited as I am to see the story continue and so forth, love it or hate it, anything goes in the comments below. And so yeah, otherwise that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.